So, okay, so we'll get started so we can get along here as much as possible. So I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we have the agenda in front of us. I don't think there's any addendums or anything like that. Ms. Clerk, Ms. Fawcett?
That is correct, Mr. Chair. There are no addendums tonight.
Okay, that's good. And so can we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Councillor Sanik, seconder? Councillor Straub. Okay, so all those in favor, please vote. That's passed. Okay, we have the minutes of the previous meeting in August, I believe, 5th. And so do we have a motion to accept that? Councillor Sanik, seconded by Councillor Neal. Any additions, subtractions? I did notice those minutes are quite useful in light of our discussion the other day regarding 805 Ridley. Councillor Stroud asked some very good questions. He may want to remind himself that he did that. So all those in favor of the minutes, confirmation of the minutes, please vote. Okay. We don't need to collect declarations of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. There are no delegations. I have a briefing from Danica Lockheed rather, on the pilot project regarding local music and musicians, which I believe Councillor Neal has a particular interest in. So if Ms. Lockhead could proceed, we'll go from there. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think, yes, I've got a presentation here. That's great. The question for the clerks, is it preferred that I keep my camera off or on for the presentation?
We ask that as staff do not come on camera. It's just the committee members that are on camera at this point. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So good evening, everyone. It's great to be here to present an update on the pilot project to promote local music and musicians and talk about plans for a future iteration of YGK Music, as well as our new strategic development work to support the sector. Slide, please. YGK Music is a pilot project that launched in September 2019 and completed in September 2020. This project promotes local music and musicians through curated playlists that are made available for listening on the city website and on our call waiting system, as well as on the Visit Kingston music page and in various city properties. Councillor Neal was referenced earlier, but this project was created in response to two council motions that were passed in 2015 that expressed a desire to see the city of Kingston promote the local music scene more actively. This project really came from an initiative out of Ottawa, the city of Ottawa, called Ott Music. And so a local music on city properties working group was formed to research this program and other programs to come up with a framework for terms of reference that were relevant to the city of Kingston. And so terms of reference were developed and subsequently approved by the Arts, Recreation and Community Policies Committee in July 2018. Slide, please. So the pilot project was launched in March 2019, and we issued an open call for submissions to local musicians. We promoted this through the City of Kingston social media channels, through a news release, and through community partners in Kingston who work with the local music sector. As part of the development of this project, we created submission selection criteria, an online application form on the City of Kingston website, a licensing agreement, a communications plan, and a project page. A new local music working group was formed through the Arts Advisory Committee, and they were responsible for reviewing and selecting the tracks for these YGK Music playlists. Through this process, 92 submissions were received, which we were quite happy with, and the local music working group selected 45 local artists to be featured. These selected artists each signed a licensing agreement and received an honorarium of $100 for their track to be featured as part of the playlist. Next slide. So the inaugural YGK Music playlist launched in September 2019 and featured two streams, the first being contemporary and the second being traditional. The playlists were housed on the SoundCloud platform, and through this platform, over the course of the 12-month pilot project period, we had 3,503 plays through SoundCloud. We had 12,800 page views through the City of Kingston and Visit Kingston websites. And through the city's main contact number and call waiting system, again, over the course of that 12-month period, we had 145,149 calls come through with about an average wait time of 54 seconds. The playlist got some additional reach over the summer with the Love Kingston Marketplace Springer Market Square public broadcast. So there was an opportunity identified to master the playlist and prepare it for public broadcast. So that really generated some additional awareness for the playlist as well. Next slide. So there were some key learnings, of course, through this pilot project, which we have taken into consideration as part of our next iteration of YGK Music. The first is around increasing honorarium slightly to provide higher fees to local artists, which of course in this moment is even more critical now due to the loss of gigs and performance opportunities facing local musicians. The second and third were around improving the overall sound quality of the playlist and the listening experience. So we had a few conversations with some local audio people who work in music production, and they shared with us some information around the challenges of the SoundCloud platform and the opportunities to increase the listener experience through embedding a music player directly on the City of Kingston website. We also learned through the Springer Market Square activation and streaming of the playlist that the listening experience of the playlist can be enhanced if the playlists are mastered as one cohesive playlist. So this is something we're going to be looking to do next year as well. There was also some interesting learnings around the need to differentiate goals and selection criteria for the playlists online, which is more of an active listening experience. People can skip tracks, they have control over it. And their experience, in going to the playlist is different from those that are calling into the City of Kingston call waiting system, which is much more passive listening. And then finally, we heard a lot of really positive feedback from the musicians that applied, the musicians that were featured, and there was a real desire to see the city continue to support and promote local musicians, but also an ask for additional, more substantive support for the local music sector. Slide, please. So due to the success of the pilot project and incorporating the learnings from the pilot, we have developed a plan for an annual YGK music program to be delivered by the City of Kingston in partnership with Tourism Kingston. And this program will take the form of two playlists. The first being Kingston Sounds, which will feature 20 tracks by Kingston musicians that will really help residents and visitors discover the strength and diversity of Kingston's music scene. This playlist will be housed on the City of Kingston website and the Visit Kingston website as well. And as I've mentioned, will be mastered to ensure a seamless transition. We will be requiring the musicians to sign a licensing agreement with us for the use of this track, and we'll be paying them a higher rate than what was part of the pilot project. Next slide. The second playlist is called Music on Hold, and this will be a special playlist designed for the City of Kingston's phone system. This playlist and the call will be open to musicians working in instrumental music, which better aligns again with the needs of the call waiting system. Something that we want to do for this Music on Hold playlist is to master it as well, but to also include introductions of each artist throughout the playlist. So again, trying to provide as much information in the sort of the easiest way to the listener to let them know what they're listening to as they're waiting for the city. We will obviously continue to promote these artists through our website, and they will also be required to sign a licensing agreement. As an appendix to the report we submitted to this committee, we have updated the terms of reference based on the pilot project to reflect the new terms of reference for these two new programs. Next slide. This is just an overview of the annual implementation schedule, which will really kick off in January with the formation and approval of a local music working group and the distribution of a public call for submissions. In March, those submissions will be reviewed by the working group, and all the administrative side to the project will be carried out. And then in May and June, the playlist will be launched and supported by ongoing communications campaign throughout the rest of the year. Next slide. Annual budget to support this YGK Music annual program is $6,000. It will include a higher percentage of artist fees to be paid, which works out to be approximately $4,500. The necessary funds for this will be included in part of our 2021 operating budget, and Tourism Kingston has committed to continuing to provide in-kind support for promotion of these playlists. Next slide. So in tandem with the annual YGK Music programs, we are working on more strategic work to support the local music sector. And this work, of course, aligns with Council's strategic priorities that includes economic development related to arts, culture, and social enterprises. Next slide. So the first bit of work on this is around the creative industries, which is a Council strategic priority. Work is underway right now to develop a creative industries sector profile report that will basically provide us with an inventory of the creative industries in Kingston to assess how they can be better supported and expanded to enhance economic development opportunities. In addition to this sector profile report, the creative industries will also be embedded in the new integrated economic development strategic plan currently in development. And so both of those reports will be coming to Council in December of this year. In the sector profile report, music has been identified as an emerging subsector for investment and growth. And the development of a music strategy for Kingston will be included in the recommendations. The strategy ultimately will try to strengthen collaboration between government, community, and industry, generate economic growth, promote music tourism, and look to remove municipal barriers to create a more dynamic and resilient local music sector. Next slide. Additionally, our department will be doing some ongoing work to support the arts and music sectors by providing employment to local artists through performances, public space activations, and public art interventions, all of course in line with public health guidelines. We experienced this and went through this summer from June to September 2020 as part of the Love Kingston Marketplace and Springer Market Square activation. Our team, in partnership with the Downtown Kingston BIA and the Musicians Union, programmed 65 live performances and paid just under $14,000 to 121 artists. So again, this will continue to, sort of try to counteract the loss of gigs and performance opportunities felt by the sector due to COVID-19. Next slide. And then finally, last week, we announced the reopening of the Baby Grand at the Kingston Grand Theatre for live performance to small in-person audiences with a maximum of 20. The Baby Grand is available for rental at a reduced rates for artists, nonprofits, and community groups. So again, musicians would be included in that. And just earlier today, we announced a virtual Grand on Stage program that will be supported by community engagement. But a new initiative we will be developing and announcing shortly that really will focus on supporting the local artist program is a partnership with the YGK Music Artists. And in this moment, we'll be working with some of these artists featured to develop a series of pre-recorded musical performances that will allow the city to continue to profile, promote, and really help develop the local Kingston talent. That's it for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So any questions from the committee of the presenter? Councillor Neal.
Thank you very much. And thanks, Danica. That was an excellent summary. I know I become a nag when things take a little bit longer than I would hope, but it looks like an excellent program. And I know considering living through the COVID situation that it's been understandably delayed somewhat because indeed you were working elsewhere for a while as well. So I really appreciate what a great job you've done on this. Could I request that you share your slide deck, if you would, with the clerks, and that that they make that available to the committee? Is that possible?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's fine. And I have sent it to the clerk so they can share it with the committee if that works for them. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I really appreciate it. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Stroud.
Hi. Thank you for the briefing. I read the report, and in general, I think it's great that we're doing all these things. You have questions surrounding something from your briefing that I didn't realize was directly related to this, and that is the hiring of artists for the Love Kingston Marketplace initiative. So I don't know whether my colleagues are aware, but that was not a motion of council or a direction of council that resulted in that whole program. That was independent of council. So we see here, the way I see that it's relevant is we see here some budget numbers. They're very small, they're very modest. For the pilot was very inexpensive. The program that's in front of us is not going to consume a lot of resources. In fact, less resources than were spent on the Love, far less than the Love Kingston Marketplace. So the question, I guess, and I don't know if you can answer this, is where does the money come from for the Love Kingston Marketplace? Because it was not from a direction of council.
Thank you for that question, Councillor Stroud. And I will also invite Colin to jump in here, as I actually wasn't in my position over the summer months due to the shortage of work. But in terms of the Love Kingston Marketplace performances, as I understand it, from cultural services perspective, we contributed a percentage of funds from our operating budget to support this project. But I'll let Colin speak to this a little bit more.
Thank you, Danica, and through you, Councillor Hutchison as chair. The monies actually came from some capital budgets that we had. We were asked to contribute that towards the Love Kingston Marketplace on behalf of the City of Kingston, along with contributions that were made by the Downtown Kingston BIA and Tourism Kingston. So there was a financial contribution, and then separate from that, we were asked to participate in the activation of Springer Market Square, particularly related to the fact that there were so many musicians out of work. So as a positive sort of constructive initiative, we were able in that context to partner with the local musicians union along with Downtown Kingston and Tourism Kingston to put that program together that featured artists on a very regular rotation in order to provide fees, and those fees were based on union scale so that we were respecting that mechanism. So there were sort of two things, if I'm taking the question correctly, that there was financial contribution from the City of Kingston towards the larger Love Kingston Marketplace. And then as a portion of the programmatic side, cultural services was involved with supporting the presentation of live music.
Thank you. I don't want to belabor the point, but this citizen committee that we're on right here does advise council, and council does approve budgets. But what you just said was the money for the artists, although it's great that you paid union rates, and I'm sure the artists were very happy to perform and everything. Everyone involved had a positive experience, but the directive to spend that taxpayer money was not from. Is that correct?
Through you, Councillor Hutchison as chair, I'm sorry, I missed that last that point. Councillor Stroud.
The direction to make capital expenditures available to support the music for the Love Kingston Marketplace. Where did that directive come from? Because it did not come from council.
It came from senior management.
So senior management told you to go ahead and spend taxpayer money on this program without coming to the elected representatives.
That Yes, that is correct, but as a separate endeavor from the report that's in front of you tonight.
Correct. And I wouldn't be mentioning it if it wasn't in the presentation, tying it into the Love Kingston Marketplace. I think that's a bad idea. That was not a direction of council. It was done independently of council, but we see now that it was taxpayer money that was spent without council direction. I'm not comfortable with that, with being associated with that spending. I did not have a chance to vote yes or no on that spending. Therefore, I do not want to be associated with that spending. So my question is, in this program that we're looking at tonight, it's as great as it looks, are future expenditures going to come to this committee or to another committee of council before the go-ahead is given to spend that money?
Through you, Councillor Hutchison, as chair, the report that is in front of you this evening, the financial dollars that are quoted, the $6,000, are from Cultural Services operating budget, specific to the two playlists that Ms. Lougheed has outlined. So the active listening playlist, as well as the passive listening for the call waiting system. Any further involvement of YGK Music as part of another initiative would be something that would require consideration beyond what's in front of you tonight.
I'm still not clear. So was this a one-time thing, this unauthorized spending, unauthorized by council, that is, or is there further spending? I need you to answer the question. Is there further spending in any way associated with what's in front of us tonight that will not be as a result of council direction as it was for the artists for the Love Kingston Marketplace? Is any of that going to happen again as a result of tonight's recommendation?
Through you, Councillor Hutchison, as chair, that's not something I feel I'm able to answer right now, what those future plans may be in 2021. Right now, the focus of this report and the presentation this evening is to ask for this committee's support for the project to move forward with an amended set of terms of reference, the annual project being the creation of these two playlists that would use monies from operating budgets as approved to a total of $6,000. So the intent of YGK Music going forward is not directly related to any kind of response to the pandemic as it played out last summer.
Okay. If there anything else in that line, Councillor Stroud, perhaps you could contact us as members of the committee. Councillor, any other questions from Councillor Sanik or Councillor Bradley?
If I can just point out.
No, hang on. I'm going to get there. I just want to give these other councillors an opportunity, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, Councillor Kylie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I think that I need clarification. Councillor Stroud asked some good questions around the authority of spending, and I think that's really important, but wouldn't such spending in question be under the delegated authority amount? So to you, wouldn't that have been an amount that's already been approved by council via our delegated authority policies?
Through you, Councillor Hutchison, I'm not quite sure how to answer that question, just because what's happening here is that we had this initiative YGK Music, which Ms. Lougheed has reported on, which is a program that we hope to establish on an annual basis with an operating budget of $6,000. And our involvement as cultural services in the programming of live music this past summer was really a separate endeavor that was led in a partnership between the City of Kingston and external partners. So I don't feel I'm able to answer that question as you're asking.
So as the chair, I let the line of questioning go because Councillor Straub was able to draw a connecting line between the presentation and the report and cultural spending. So I wasn't quite sure just exactly, well, I could tell where he was going with it. That was clear enough. But, you know, what quite the connection could be. So I think if we have questions in this regard, we've opened the door, and now I think we should proceed with the report in front of us if we want to, because that's what's in front of us and that's what we're here for. So, but I encourage councillors to speak to staff and other councillors in another forum. Although Councillor Neal, you seem to have an opinion on this, so I'll let you speak.
Yes, I just want to point out this, that the courtyard music that came about at the time when we were in the pandemic, and both the CAO and the mayor were empowered to do things without consulting council. I share some of Councillor Stroud's frustration in that process. But having said that, this was a very successful project, and it dovetails nicely into this YGK music initiative. So frankly, I just want to clarify that this wasn't staff going rogue and spending taxpayers' dollars without properly consulting with council. This happened, as many motions did, some of which I sent emails and was frustrated that certain things that got approved through that delegation of authority in the emergency COVID initiative were initiatives from the CAO's office and the mayor's office. They were not a case of staff kind of going out on their own and spending taxpayers' dollars. So I just want to clarify that, because there could have been the misunderstanding that somehow staff were spending unallocated funds. These were programs that came about during that delegated authority.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, for Councillor Neal. I essentially agree with you. And I think that answers Councillor Kiley's questions. Councillor Stroud, do you have
a point of order?
Point of order.
We not in questions to staff about the briefing, or if we're in deliberations, I would like to respond to what Councillor Neal just said to clarify what I was actually saying.
We're actually in questions right at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Councillor Neal did not ask a question.
No, he didn't.
Stated an opinion.
I asked him for his opinion on the procedure.
Yeah. He stated an opinion. Am I going to be permitted to state my opinion?
Well, in fairness, I'm going to let you do that right now.
Okay.
I really do want to bring this part of it to a close, because we were given a straight up answer from Mr. Wigington that it was under instructions from senior staff that this money was allocated. So we're really not talking to the right people here. So, and they indicated the reluctance to say, you know, how it might happen again, because frankly, they didn't initiate it the first time. So, but go ahead. If you feel there's a need to clarify your comments, Councillor Stroud, proceed.
I think it is really important to know where all of this fits, and because we are voting on this tonight, we will vote on it as a council, which was not the case with the Love Kingston Marketplace. Therefore, we should not be basing anything that we do tonight on what happened with the Love Kingston Marketplace because we did not give that direction. It doesn't matter if you agreed that it was under emergency orders or not. The point is, we did not have anything to do with that. We did not okay that spending. We did not direct it. And to imply that we somehow are in support of it or not is contrary to our role as councillors. Okay, so tonight we have a role. It is legitimate. But any argument that brings in what happened without our input or involvement is actually, it's a distraction. It's a red herring. It's irrelevant, and it's even out of order. So what I'm saying is it doesn't matter how successful this program was. It doesn't matter what Councillor Neal's opinion about it was. It doesn't matter what my opinion about it was. I just am not comfortable tying it, or as Councillor Neal says, it dovetails nicely. I'm not comfortable with that. If that's what this means, we need to clarify this, because if that's what this means, I will have to argue at council about this very point. And if you want that to happen, you can continue on with your opinions that this is relevant or not. But I need it clarified right here at committee before it goes to council. That spending that we did not authorize, how does it relate to the recommendation tonight? That is my question.
I think this seems to be begging for a ruling from the chair, okay? And I think that that you've made your point very clear, and I understand where it's coming from. And because other things happened, you know, we're spending and, you know, and actions which had some regrettable outcomes. So, okay, so I think that I think the presentation just showed that they were happening at the same time, and that they're not actually intricately or in any way really connected. They're just that it was showing us an example of among a number of how this policy can work. So we're here tonight to talk about this particular musicians and local music program, how this will work and how much it will cost. And so that's what's on the table. And I think the question about Love Kingston Marketplace, although I wasn't quite sure where it was going, I would now say that it's not before us tonight. It's something that is past tense, and so not up for debate tonight in this forum. It's not on the agenda, but the program very much is. And that's what we should confine our remarks to. I think I've given plenty of opportunity to a number of sides of this, but it's not something in front of us. That element of Love Kingston Marketplace is not in front of us tonight. And so I would ask that, we proceed. And so we've heard this. Does staff have anything else they wish to add about this program, about this proposal?
Thank you, Councillor Hutchison, and through you, I just want to reiterate my point from before that what is in front of the committee tonight is essentially an amended version of the terms of reference from the pilot project to move YGK Music into an annual music program with a focus on Kingston Sounds, which would be made available online and through city properties, and Music on Hold, which would be in support of our call waiting system, So that is the focus of this evening's report and conversation.
Okay, thank you. Let's see now. Okay, usually we proceed, the clerk can correct me, to the views of the public. If there's any public present, I don't know if there is.
That is correct, Mr. Chair. However, we do not have any public in attendance tonight.
Thank you. So we're back to the committee. We need someone to move the recommendation. It's moved by Councillor Kiley and seconded by Councillor Neal. Do we have any other comments from the committee? Councillor Kiley.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Through you, just to compliment staff, I think that was an excellent program, builds goodwill in the community, and is very good for local musicians. So many thanks for taking a pilot project into something more fulsome.
Okay, Councillor Sandy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I do want to compliment Councillor Neal for bringing that motion forward a few years ago, because this has been an excellent program, and I didn't know too much about what's transpired since we did that motion at City Council, but reading this report, really good things came out of it, and really good things are being developed in the future to keep the program as a permanent program instead of pilot, and that's great. And I think back when we did do the original motion, the intent was to always play the music at the loudspeakers at Market Square, wasn't it? Yes. Yeah, and so I see Councillor Neal nodding his head. So I think it's just the fact that, we had COVID, and we also had Love Kingston Marketplace at Market Square at this time during the pilot. It just so happened both things were at the same time. But as far as even funding Love Kingston Marketplace, the mayor, our mayor, he's the one who ran the Kingston Economic Recovery Team. And I think this is where the Love Kingston Marketplace came out of. And he's the mayor, he leads council. So there's that tie-in too. So I don't want to, say to
Councillor Stanek, I already ruled on this.
Good. So I was just
Good
supporting
comments,
it.
But it have to be another forum, okay?
Yeah,
So
yeah, no, exactly.
I
have no problem supporting this.
Speak about this, but in retrospect, I probably let it go on too long.
No
So
problem. I support this.
It's important stuff. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Yeah, thanks.
So, yeah. I'm hesitant to proceed on the basis of people's memories. So, Councillor Neal, did you have your hand up again? I thought I saw your hand.
I just wanted to thank staff again. I think they've done an excellent job. And I really, really appreciate that they've gone beyond just the strict wording of the intent of the original motion. And they brought to us for approval and for council to approve kind of value added initiative. And so I want to thank Danica and Colin and their colleagues for doing an excellent job. Thank you.
Okay. Now, as I said at the beginning of this meeting, I have another meeting I have to go to do with 661 Montreal Street, which I presume will be more lively than this one. So, not that this one didn't get lively. So I'm going to hand the chair over to Councillor Stanek at this point, because we have the recommendation is up and she might as well deal with that. And I will thank you all. It was informative. Okay. And, but I do have to go to this other meeting and want to get on there. Okay. Thanks very much. Bye now.
Okay, super. So I take the chair, and we do have the recommendation in front of us. We need a mover and a seconder. So if I could have a mover, please, for the recommendation. Should I read it right?
Sorry, Madam Vice Chair, there was already a movement and a seconded on the floor. It is just to vote at this point.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Councillor Strapp.
Yes, before we vote. The aspect of the Love Kingston Marketplace tie-in is in the report, but it's not overtly in the recommendation. So I guess I just need to clarify before we vote. Is YGK Music Exhibit A? I could ask for a recess and go through myself, but maybe I'll ask staff. In terms of reference and the work that council would be approving if we recommend this, is it directly linked to the emergency order spending that the mayor and the CAO did without consultation with council during the pandemic? I need to know if that is related or not. To the exhibit,
Okay.
because this is what we're recommending to council, and I'm gonna vote against if it includes anything that we did not previously endorse.
Okay, Councillor Neal has done a point of order. Councillor Neal.
Thank you very much. And I think I just beat Councillor Kiley because he had his point of order as well. This is a fresh direction for both us as a committee in spending future funds. And so it's a fresh recommendation that we're being asked to approve. And it will then go to
State
council.
your point of order, Councillor Neal. State your point of order.
My point of order is that this is a fresh direction. And so it's perfectly legitimate without going back to previous decisions, because this is a new direction.
Neal,
Yeah.
how is that a point of order?
I think what Councillor Neal is saying is that this recommendation is for 2021, and Love Your Kingston, Your Kingston Marketplace was 2020. And so we might not even have a Love Your Kingston Marketplace next year. So,
Mr. Staff, from the exhibit, I can call a recess and read it myself, or we can just sort this out. From the exhibit, from what we are recommending to council, is anything that we're recommending to council based on the non-authorized spending of the Kingston Marketplace? Yes or no?
and staff.
Through you, Councillor Sanik, as chair, as the terms of reference outline, what we're looking for at this juncture is support for turning this into an annual program that has two playlists. One, the Kingston Sounds, that would be made available through websites and city facilities that may include outdoor broadcast, as that was part of an original discussion, that these playlists could be leveraged in different ways using city platforms of different kinds. And then there would be the music on hold that would be in support of the call waiting system. So those are the parameters within which this project is meant to move forward.
Okay, just said music and the playlist has nothing to do with live performances in the square. So why were those live performances in the square part of the report?
Through you, Councillor Sanik, as chair, those things were referenced because it seemed helpful to be able to demonstrate through this report that as we had built the YGK music playlist, both the contemporary and the traditional, we had those as an asset. There had been discussions historically about those playlists being used for public broadcast in spaces like Springer Market Square, particularly in tandem with wintertime skating. That hadn't been possible previously, and so we did see an opportunity to give more profile to the YGK music project by presenting the broadcasts across the system in Springer Market Square as a way to raise profile for that initiative. And as I stated previously, the organization of live music, again, was in response to direction that we received as staff to create animation and programming for Springer Market Square. And again, we had this asset in the form of the YGK music program, and felt it was an opportunity to profile the artists who had been selected and to create paid work for them during the time when so much work had been lost. So that is why it's referenced in the report as an opportunity to take an existing asset and give it greater profile.
Councillor Stroud.
Okay, so, but there was a working group that spoke about the local music, and that working group included local music musicians, producers, venue organizers, that kind of thing, as I understand it. So I don't believe they were consulted for the performers in the YGK marketplace. Were they? I don't think they were. So I'm struggling to see how what you're recommending, it ought to have come from that work, from the pilot and from staff's work. I understand that you don't want to lose assets that happen to have been put in play coincidentally this year, but I still don't understand the connection.
Through you, Councillor Sanek, as chair, the connection was the opportunity to work in partnership with the Musicians Union and the other community partners to create a platform to profile local musicians as well as provide them with paid work. So it just made sense because there had been a working group that highlighted a list of selected artists who had been profiled virtually through various platforms like the website to give them that public forum. So again, as I say, it was building on the intent of the original pilot project, which was to select, identify, profile, and promote particularly emerging musicians in Kingston. So the working group had been involved in that initial selection.
Councillor Stroud.
Yeah, so I'll just finish saying I'm very uneasy by being associated with something that was an emergency order, and either whether we agree with the result of that or not, we shouldn't be associating ourselves with that because we didn't actually do that. And I'm uncomfortable with that sort of cross-pollinating with the and the work from the community members who are in the music industry. If we had some of them here tonight, you'd understand a little bit more what I'm getting at. The music industry, it has its own little life. It has its own players. It has its own competition. So you can see what I mean. Like when Tourism Kingston and the mayor and the CAO decide, let's hire some musicians, and great, they're paid musician wage, but the community members that were in the pilot group didn't actually help select those musicians. And this program that we're about to approve must be community-based, not as a result of someone exercising power that is not community-based, which is the case with Tourism Kingston, the mayor, and the CAO. So that's the important aspect here. It's a community music initiative. And Councillor Neal, I can't believe you don't understand this. You're trying to elevate members of the community that are musicians, and you're glossing over the fact that the Love Kingston Marketplace was.
I believe there's a point of order.
Yeah, Councillor Stroud, there's a point of order, and we can't go putting words in other councillors' mouths. Councillor Kiley. want to explain?
Yeah, thank you. 2 points of order, Madam Chair. You anticipated one, imputing motive to another council member, and also Councillor Hutchison, before he left, when he was in chair, already ruled on the comments that continue to get made. So I think that
Yeah,
that
I
needs to
think
be moved on from.
yeah. And thanks, Councillor Kylie and Councillor Stroud. Now I see what you're getting at. Like, I did not understand what, now I do. But when this finishes with this committee, we would then have 2 weeks to, get more clarification from the mayor who leads that economic recovery team who set up the Love Kingston Marketplace as part of this. And Councillor Stroud, I think you wrapped everything up. And Councillor Neal now had his hand up for the floor. Councillor Neal?
Thank you very much. Again, I'm very, very pleased with the overall report, and I think that our staff have done an excellent job. I want to remind people that the special powers that went to the CAO and the mayor were voted on by council, and they were voted on unanimously at the time. If you want to debate whether every decision that was made was appropriate, or should some of those decisions that were made on the emergency measures should have come to council, I'm pleased to have that debate and to support it. But I think our staff took a motion of council from 4 or 5 years ago and some decisions that were made under the emergency powers that we bestowed unanimously upon the mayor and the CAO's office. And they've come up with a report that is really, really positive. And therefore, I'm in total support of this, and I will be at council as well.
Okay. Councillor Kylie, did you have anything left? All right. So I'll call the question then. All those in favor of the recommendation, raise your hand. Okay, it passes. All right, thanks very much. The second part of our agenda is the report received from the Arts Advisory Committee. And it is the appointments to the 2020 Mayor's Arts Awards Working Group so they can start up. The recommendation is that the Arts, Recreation, Community Policies Committee recommend to Council that Jan Allen, Sadiqa Khan, and Castle Myers be appointed as public members to the 2020 Mayor's Arts Awards Nominations Working Group with the term expiring on November 30th, 2020. Do we have a mover? And Councillor Neal and seconder Councillor Kylie. Any discussion? Councillor Neal?
Just a point, I've been appointed because there needs to be an ex officio non-voting member of council on that committee as well. I don't see my name on this, but I just asked the clerk whether that's an oversight or whether I'm okay with being appointed to that.
It does say as public members.
Okay.
You're not really public, but do the clerks agree with that interpretation?
Madam Chair, I believe Colin will agree with my statement, but the non-public members were appointed at the previous ARC meeting, and I believe that that's how it was handled, but I'll get Mr. Wigington to confirm that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes,
Mr. Wigington?
thank you, Councillor Sanek, and through you as chair, the clerk is correct. There was already a motion that came forward under the terms of reference for the Mayor's Arts Awards program. There are members appointed from the Arts Advisory Committee itself. That motion has come forward previously through this committee. And so as you pointed out, these are the public representatives who are being appointed to this committee with your support.
Thank you. My memory doesn't work as well as it used to. Thank you very much.
No problem. Our last meeting was August 8th. So if it was at that meeting, that was a long time ago. And if it was at the meeting before that, I think that was like the January meeting. So a long time ago. Okay, are we ready to vote on it then? All those in favor of those public appointments? It passes. Super. Okay, so do we have any notices, or sorry, do we have any motions? I don't see any.
No, we do not, Madam Chair.
Oh, okay, thank you. Any notices of motion to submit? Nope. Other business to raise? Nope. Correspondence? I believe none, right?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So the date and time of the next meeting is for December 2nd. And now to adjourn, can I please have a mover? Councillor Kiley, and seconded by Councillor Neal. All those in favor? Perfect. And it passes. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. See ya next week.